Hello everybody, we're going to be going through language conventions, so it's going to be the part of the literacy part of the Year 3 NAPLAN test from 2008. If you've got any queries, just let me know in the comments and we'll work through it. So first up, we have to find the spelling mistakes in the sentences, and it tells us where they are. They're in the circled words. Simon doesn't like eating carrots. Like has an E on the end, like. Second one, please open the door. Open is O-P-E-N, open. Anna has brown hair and blue eyes. Brown has a W and not a U, brown. Number 4, many dogs are good at swimming. It would be swimming if it's only got one M, which isn't a word. It's double M. Swimming. Swimming. We ran around the oval. Around has a U, not a W. Around. I am visiting my friends. Friends has an I before the E. Friends. Number 7, the ball cracked the glass. It'd be craked, which isn't a word. If it just had the K, it needs a C in front of it. C-R-A-C-K-E-D, cracked. My brother thinks he is great on a skateboard. Great, as in really good. It's spelled a bit different. G-R-E-A-T, great. The dog was noisy and barked a lot. A lot of past tense versions of verbs have ed on the end, and this one is no exception. Barked. Number 10, my mum complained about the noise. Complained has a C near C-O at the start. Complained, just like computer. Complained. That's the first page. Spelling mistakes on these labels have been circled. Write the correct spelling for each circled word. Wheel has a H. Safety helmet is M-U-T. Padded seat. Seat is E-A-T. And special ties, even though SH makes a sh sound, special is spelled a little bit differently with a CI in this instance. Makes a sh sound that we're looking for. Alrighty, now we've got to read text about Peter, and each line has one word that is incorrect, and we write down the correct spelling of each word. This time we have to find the word ourselves. Peter knew he could look after a baby animal, so he was very happy with his birthday present. It was a cute, fluffy little puppy. Could has an L in it. C-O-U-L-D. Could. A baby animal. Animal has an A-L. A-N-I-M-A-L. Animal. With his birthday present. Present only has the S, not the C. Present. Is a cute, fluffy little puppy. Little is double T. Little. Alright. Read the text about cells. Cells. Your body is made up of millions of tiny cells. Blood carries oxygen to the cells to keep them working properly. Your body is made up of millions of tiny cells. Millions. Double L. Blood carries oxygen to the cells. Oxygen's a bit of a strange word. O-X-Y-G-E-N. Oxygen. The Y is the sound there, not the E. that they've got written there. To keep them working properly. Properly. P-R-O-P-E-R-L-Y. Read the text about the game. Each line has an incorrect word. The football match was about to start. Match has a T. All our supporters were yelling loudly. Loudly has a U and not a W. Hoping our team would win. Not hopping our team would win. Hoping. Longer vowel sound occurs before a single consonant. It's a shorter sound before a double consonant. Hopping, hoping. Before half time, the rain started to pour down. Pour is P-O-U-R. Alright, 26. Which of the following correctly completes a sentence? Mum gave it to him. Mum gave it to he is no good. He can be a subject, it can't be an object, and English is SVO, subject verb object. So in this instance, verb is gave, the subject is mum, so the subject could have been he, but it's not, and an object has to be him, something like him or himself. But while his is just possessive, it cannot be himself though, because mum is female. So it could have been mum gave it to herself. But because it's a feminine person, it has to be the other object option, which is him. 27. Which of the following correctly completes the sentence? The girl said hello. The girl is third person, so it could be says if it was present tense. Will say if it's future tense. Past tense is said. This one here I do not believe is a word, and this one is for plural. So for example, the girls were saying. So that's the plural past tense. This is the singular past tense. 28. Shade one bubble to show where the missing full stop would go. I came home late from school because of the rain. There's continuous flow within the sentence when you read it. I came home late from school. As a result of that, there's no comma or anything. And it's not that common you'll have a pause just before because that's implied. So the full stop has to be right at the end there. I came home late from school because of the rain. 29. Jenny will arrive home. Now, depending on what comes at the end, depends on what word you put before it. If you said if it was going to be about noon, then you would say at noon. If you said she was going to arrive in a month, like describing the month, you would say in. Jenny will arrive home in October. In October. Until is normally describing the exception. You know, Jenny will be at school until 4 o'clock. So Jenny being at school is the norm, until is how it changes from the norm. But that's not what's happening here. It's saying that it's just giving a statement as to when she will arrive, not saying about how an exception has occurred. So the answer for this one, Jenny will arrive home on Sunday. So just to repeat, on before a day, at for a time, in for a month. It's a bit tricky, but once you practice it a few times, you get used to it. 30. Which of the following correctly completes the sentence? Isn't it a nice day? Isn't is present tense. So they're talking about something that is ongoing, or something current. Yesterday is obviously the past. Nice day means they're talking about a day, so next week or last week are no good. It has to be talking about a present day. Isn't it a nice day today? If it was going to be about yesterday, they would say wasn't it, because was is already implying something from the past. I was going to eat my breakfast, but I was running late. I was running late, as opposed to I am running late. Am, present, was is past. Isn't it a nice day today? Now again, we have to see where the full stop is, so listen to how I say the sentence. John's new bike was red and silver. Mike wished he had one like it. There's a clear pause after the red and silver. Subject, verb, object. Subject is John. The verb is was, and the object has been described as red and silver. That's a complete sentence. John's new bike was red and silver. When it has said that Mike wished he had one like it, we're starting to talk about something else, which shows it's a completely different theme to the previous sentence. So the full stop happens after silver and before Mike. The capital letter at the start of Mike doesn't tell us that the full stop should be in front of it, because Mike is a name, so it should have a capital letter anyways. Question 32. The boy was camping next to us said hello. In this instance, it's who. The boy who was camping next to us said hello. The reason it's who is because the word here is denoting what the subject was. And because it's said to be a child, a person, then we need to have who, because who is in reference to the identity of a person. The boy who was camping next to us said hello. The answer is who. 33. The team ran after the oval, between the oval, onto the oval, with the oval. Between doesn't really work. With the oval, an oval can't run, so you can't run with it. After the oval, it's obscure and strange. It has to be onto. The team ran onto the oval, which is what a team will do at the start of a match. Onto, which is a combination of on and to as in towards. So they're going to the oval, but they're running onto it, on it also. Onto. 34. Which sentence has the correct punctuation? Dad, Joe, and Anna swam across the lake. So you need a comma in between Dad and Joe. Dad is a title, so it needs to be capitalized, so it can't be the first one. Joe is a name and it needs to be capitalized also, so it could be the third or fourth. Swam, across, and lake do not need to be capitalized, so the answer is the third one. I will make mention though that lake can be capitalized. It should be capitalized when it's actually the name of a lake in particular. That way it's a title. An example of this would be Lake Eyre in South Australia. It's not just any old lake, it's Lake Eyre. So the L needs to be capitalized, and so does the actual title of the lake. Same as Lake Michigan in the United States. Capital letter for the name of the lake, and it will have to have a capital L at the start also. Just like you would for things like Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Mediterranean Sea, things like this. Year 3 language conventions. The writing below has some gaps. Choose the best option. I am hopeless at boiling eggs if I want them to soft. So it's obviously describing them as soft. To be soft, to being soft, to being soft. If I want them to. If I want them is projecting to something soft, it needs to be present tense. So it has to be be, it can't be been, and it can't be in a state, in a constant state, which is what being is talking about, because it's projecting for the future. If I want them to. It's not if they are they currently being soft? That works, but I want them to be. We're projecting towards the future. If I want them to be soft and runny, we need to have a little pause here, so we have a comma. If I want them to be soft and runny, they end really hard boiled. They end at really hard boiled, up really hard boiled, in really hard boiled, of really hard boiled. The answer here is up. End up is a term that we use for how things are when they reach their conclusion. You know, how did the movie end up? Well, Harry Potter saved the day at the end of the day. End up. It's just a way that they use in English for describing how things finished. So it's saying that when I wanted the eggs to be soft and runny, they finished up as really hard boiled. Then on the other side of things, if I want hard eggs, they, because we're talking about plural, want hard eggs, they turn out all. I always, and the options are watery, they turn out all watery. Again, we've got a capital letter afterwards, but there always should be for the word I. It's a title, so it doesn't tell us that there needs to be a full stop prior necessarily, but there does need to be. The word is watery. It doesn't have an apostrophe. It doesn't have a question mark. It's not a question when we said if I want eggs, they turn out all watery. It's not asking anybody if they turn out all watery. It's saying that they do, which means it's the first or fourth one, but it has to be the first because it needs to have a full stop at the end of it. I'll always get a surprise when I eat my boiled eggs. That's when. I always get a surprise how I eat my boiled eggs. I don't believe you would be surprised by your own actions. So that's why how is no good. I always get a surprise why I eat my boiled eggs. That doesn't sound particularly surprising. I always get a surprise that I eat my boiled eggs. That could work if the person really didn't like their food, but it's really when. They're talking about how often some things happen, and it's always. So then we're making further reference to that time. I always get a surprise when I eat my boiled eggs. 41. Which of the following completes a sentence? I went in Mum's car. The car belongs to Mum, so we need to have an apostrophe there to say it's a possession of Mum's car. 42. Which sentence has the correct punctuation? Football is a popular game. Football being the proper name of a sport has a capital letter. Popular game do not need it, and it's a full stop at the end. So it is the third one. Football is a popular game. The only difference between third and second is that full stop at the end. There needs to be one. The sentence could have continued, but we're not being told that it does or not. So we've got to assume that it doesn't. Which of the following correctly completes the sentence? I was woke at dawn, waken, woken, waked. It's woken. That is the past perfect version of the verb. So it's just like I was spoken to, I was woken at dawn. It's exactly the same form. Which of the following correctly completes the sentence? I had never been camping before. So for this verb tense, you need to have had. So as an example, I had been on a diet. I had been on a diet. It's saying pretty well the same thing as I was on a diet. It's just using the past perfect tense. So it needs to have had been, and it's exactly the same even if there's a negative in the middle. So if there's a negative in the middle, you can chuck in the word never. And same for over here. I never was on a diet is just the normal way. I had never been on a diet is using the perfect form, past tense perfect form of the verb. I had never been camping before. 45. Which sentence has the correct punctuation? Sam, who is only 3, had to stay with Mum. So think of when the pauses are. Sam, who is only 3, had to stay with Mum. The pause will be after the 3 and after the Sam. There's our subject. who is only 3, had to stay with mum. There's our verb, there's our object, and this is just a descriptive little interlude, or like a little pause break between the continuation of what is happening to the subject. Sam, who is only 3, describing the subject, now about what happens to the subject, had to stay with mum. Capital for Sam, capital for mum, and we've got our commas in the right places. 46, which of the following completes the sentence? My cold is something than it was last week. My cold is worse than it was last week. Worse is not a word. Badder is not a word. More bad is incorrect English. My cold is worse than it was last week. 47, he had an bowl of soup. Now, an is what you put in front of a word, in front of a noun. Noun, it could be noun or adjective, but it needs to be one with a. Yeah, it can be noun or adjective because we're talking about an adjective this time around. It has to be put directly in front of a word that begins with a vowel sound. Without it, it doesn't need to be there. So, as an example, you can say a dog, but you can't say an dog. So it needs to be a in front of a consonant sound. It needs to be an in front of a vowel sound. And the emphasis is on sound because university starts with a vowel, but it doesn't start with a vowel sound. The U at the start sounds like Y. Sounds like a Y. University. Therefore, in that instance, it's a university. It can't be an university. I wouldn't go to an university. It doesn't have the same flow to it. What we're really trying to do when we use an is we don't want to do a double vowel sound, especially when they're different. It can sound very awkward, like a octopus. A octopus. It sounds odd. We need to try to put that pause in the middle with an N. It's an octopus. That way it creates very clear separation between where one word finishes and another word begins. So in this instance, he had an, which means we need something that starts with a vowel sound. Big, large, and gigantic are all consonant sounds. B, L, G, or gigantic, J, sorry. Enormous is an E. He had an enormous. So that is the right answer. He had an enormous bowl of soup. 48. Which sentence is correct? Her and him had a canoe. He and his sister had a canoe. Him and his sister had a canoe. Himself and his sister had a canoe. Now, the way to solve this, and this is exactly the same when it comes to things like, instead of saying me and my brother, you say my brother and I. And the reason you write it like that is because if you ever take out one of the people from your story, you need to have the sentence set up in such a way that it's still fully functional once you've taken out part of the information. So, given that it's sort of joint subjects and English is subject, verb, object, both subjects need to be able to be of the correct format. So I'll just show you for this sentence. If I get rid of the first descriptor for both of them, then what you end up getting, let's say we're talking about my brother and I, we both play soccer. So in this instance, that first one is my brother plays soccer, and the second one is I play soccer. So that's fine. It works for both of them. But watch what happens when we cross out the second one. Now this one is my brother plays soccer. This one though, me play soccer. That doesn't make sense now. And as a result, this is what you see as the object. You know, this is what happened to me. This being the subject, verb, happened, object is me. Because we're talking about joint subjects here, it doesn't work. You can't have me as a subject. Me can only be an object. It has to be at the end of a sentence and not in the part where the subject is being introduced. Subject being the first part of the sentence. So, in this instance, again, let's try to cross out the first ones of each and what we get left with. If we cross out the first ones of each, we get left with him, his sister, twice. Actually, his sister is for all three of them. So let's just say these forms with a canoe. Him had a canoe, his sister had a canoe. Him had a canoe does not work. Again, him is what you say as an object, not as a subject. So that means that the first one cannot be right. Now let's get rid of the second one of each. That way we're just left with, well, we're not, we'll include the first one in there even though we already know this isn't right, but we'll see if it works for this example. So now we're going to use the same sentence, but we're getting rid of the second subject. So, her had a canoe. Doesn't make sense. Again, that needs to be an object. And we're only talking about subjects here, SVO. He had a canoe. That works for both of them. Third one, him had a canoe. No, again, that's an object. At the end of the sentence, the canoe belonged to him. Or the canoe belonged to himself. He gave the canoe to himself. Again, it's object. If it was himself had a canoe, again, that doesn't make sense. It needs to be he. That is the way that we don't denote a male. That's the way that we denote a male. If we don't give them a full name, like Donald has a canoe, he has a canoe. So the answer here was the second one. He and his sister had a canoe. It is something that is a little bit tricky because he and his sister, or his sister and I, things like this, they sound like it shouldn't make much of a difference, but the method I gave you is a bit of a way of being able to figure out which way it is. So just remember that you're always dealing with subject, verb, object, and we're talking about the subject first. It's a joint subject, her and him. Joint subjects, but they need to be worded in a way that if you get rid of one of those subjects and leave the other, it needs to be technically correct. The sentence needs to function properly. Him had a canoe is not proper English. It is using the object form in the subject's place, which is against the general pattern of the English language, which is subject, verb, object. So again, the answer is he and his sister had a canoe, because it works with either subject. He had a canoe or his sister had a canoe. They both work well individually as well as they do collectively. The last two questions. Got to see where the missing speech mark is. Hurry up or we'll miss the bus, said Liam to Kim. Said Liam to Kim indicates that's what the statement was that was said. Hurry up or we'll miss the bus. It must be the statement, and therefore that's where you need the speech marks. We call these speech marks very roughly 6699 because they look like little 66s or 99s, and you need to have 66s at the start. So that's what we're missing. We're missing 66 before the hurry. And for the last one, she was sick, her dog's naughty behaviour. She was sick because her dog's naughty behaviour? Unlikely. Sick of? Yes. Sick by? Probably not. Sick as? Again, unlikely. It's sick of her dog's naughty behaviour. When you're sick of something, it means that you've had enough of it and you've been pushed to breaking point, or you're that bothered by it, it's time to take action. Sick of. She's sick of her dog's naughty behavior. And also let's remember that of, even though it's got an F, it has the sound of a V. If it had double F, that's when we pronounce it like an F. She told her dog off. But when it came to his behavior, she was sick of her dog's naughty behavior. Anyways, that's the test. If you've got any questions, just leave them in the comments and I'll get back to them as soon as I can.